In our previous video, we looked at how we add the links to achieve the Ajax functionality, where we were able to display different files or different um, pages in the same document without updating, without refreshing the page. So we're able to update our page without refreshing the page, all right? As you can see here. What we are going to do now is we're going to work on the lookup department functionality. And this functionality will allow us to specify an ID, and we will have a lookup button or search button, and then it will display the information for us. It will search the database for the information and display it on the page for us. To do this, I'm just going to be working with what we have already. So I'm going to be using the code from the add department to get the form here to enter the data that we are searching for. And I'm also going to be using the view to display the information. I will also display the information inside the form, as well as demonstrating how we can have it displayed on a table. So I'm going to be putting both of these in one code and form it into our lookup page. All right, so let's see how this is done. So we're going to head back over to Notepad++. All right, so I'm going to start by, first of all, just making a copy of this page. We will alter it. I'm going to create a new tab and paste the code here. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to just save this. So I'm going to call this lookup customer. Sorry, department. Lookup, or let me call it find department. All right, so this one is called find department.php. All right, so I'm going to apply some modification to this. So instead of having add department, I'm going to put find department. And down here, instead of saying add new department, I'm going to say find department or search for department. That's what it's going to be. Down here for the buttons, instead of having submit, I'm going to put lookup. All right. I'm going to leave the 3 fields, even though I'm just going to be using the ID as a search field, but I'm going to display the information found for name and location. All right. So I'm going to save that. All right. So as this is right now, it will just, let's just see what we have so far. So the page I want to see is localhost, and it's find department. So this is what we have so far, find department. So as I said before, so these, oh, I need to change also what should happen when lookup is clicked. So let me just head back over there. All right, so when lookup is clicked, so remember in the form, we have it set to save.php. All right, so the action, I'm going to let the action be handled by the same page, the same find department page. All right, so I'm going to say find. All right, so we will set that up in a moment. Let's save that. Good. So that's what we have so far. Now, whenever find department is clicked, what we want to do is, just like we did with the view departments here, we are going to be altering the query so that it search not just for all the possible departments. We will just want to modify this, add a where clause so that it search for a specific department. All right. So it therefore means then that we are going to just move what we have here over to, I'm going to move this over to our find department.php. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to copy all of this along with the include connect.php up top. All right. So we're going to head over and just below our div, we're going to put this. All right. So let's go over. So right here in the body, all right, we're going to put the code that we copied a while ago. All right, so here we have departments. You could put search results here. And for this to work, for the PHP to work, remember that we have to include our connect.php. All right, so that has to be there for it to work. And we are just going to include it right here. Right. So if we were to run this, or if we were to view this, all right, so we might have something off. Line 46 is complaining. Let's look at that unexpected token. All right. Line 46. All right. Oh, we have, I already have the open PHP tag. All right, no need for that. So all of this here is PHP, so I just need to have that. That's semicolon. All right. So there we have it now. So this is what we have so far. As at the moment, it's displaying everything in the search results. We don't want that to happen. We just want it to display based on what is entered up here. So if the user enters department ID 3 and click lookup, it will display, it should just display the department with ID 3. All right. And the same thing for up here. So it's going to display the information for department ID 3, which is HR and block A up here as well. All right, so we're progressing well. So let's continue. Good. All right, so now what we're going to do now is, remember, the form is set so that whenever it's submitted, the submission will be handled by find department.php. Therefore, mean that once we click on lookup, the data from the form, that's the post data, will be sent back to the form so we can access it from inside here. So what we're going to check here, we're going to add a where clause to this. So we're going to say select star from department, and we're just going to say where the dep ID is equal to the information that would have been entered for the department ID in the form here. So that can be accessed. If you remember when you're doing the save, so if we look at the save, we realize that to access that element, we will just say $_post. It's going to be post department ID. All right. So that's what we're going to put here. So where department ID is equal to post department ID. So we have modified the query so that it will query based on what is entered in the form. So whatever is entered in the form for the department ID, that is what will be displayed down here. So let's see if it works. All right, so I'm gonna refresh. All right, line 48 is complaining. All right, so let's check on that. Line 48. All right, so just make sure that we type this correctly. So we say select star from department where department ID is equal to $ underscore post department. Okay, no need to put the quotation here because you're already in double quote. Post department ID. All right, save. All right, so there we have it. So any number I put up here, so if I put 1, that is what's going to be displayed there. So once it's a department ID, all right, so there it is, say displayed information down here. All right, the next thing that now this is another issue that we have to be mindful of. All right, so if nothing is up here, if nothing is entered, it's going to display an error because there's nothing to be found. All right, so what we can do, we can just change the message and indicate that nothing was found. All right, so let's modify to show that. So instead of just saying error query in the database, we can say no result found. All right. So now if we try to search without specifying something, we'll see no result found. But if we put in an department ID and click lookup, we will see the information here. All right, so the next thing we want to also do is to display the information in the form up here. Okay, so I want to display the information in the form. So we want to just change the value of the different form elements. And in order to do that, I'm just going to be marking each form element, each input element with a ID. So I'm going to just head back over to our code. And we will be just marking these with some IDs first of all. All right, so these are our form elements. So we have the input type, which is text. And this one is for the department ID. So let me just set an ID for this element. So ID is equal to depth ID. All right, so we have the depth ID. For this one is going to be the name. So ID is equal to depth name. And this one ID is gonna be equal to depth location. Let's say LOC. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm marking the different input elements that will allow me to dynamically change the value that is inside of them. All right, so we're gonna look at how we can dynamically change the value of the input elements. All right, so now that we have marked our form elements with IDs, what we can do now is just like how we use the JavaScript in the home page. So remember when we're doing our home page, we use our JavaScript to access the DOM and to change the form element, that is to change the content of this inner HTML. We can now use the same idea to change the value of the form elements dynamically. So this is what we're trying to achieve. All right, so we want whenever an element is found, it also display the information up here as well. So if I put in 1, whenever I say lookup, it should display, put back the 1 here, as well as the department name and the department location here. So if I want that to happen, this is one technique that we could use. All right, so first thing we need to do is to mark the elements, that is to identify each element with an ID that we have already done. The next thing to do is to create a little JavaScript, a very tiny JavaScript. So and inside the script, we're going to create a function and call it set values. And it's going to accept 3 parameters, one for the department ID, the other one for the department name, and the other one is the department location. Right, so these are 3 elements we want to pass to this function. All right. So this is the idea. So we're going to say document get element by ID. So the first one we want to get by ID is the department ID itself, which is the ID for that is dep ID. So I'm going to pass this here in double quotes. And what I'm going to do is just to change the value. So I'm going to say that value is equal to whatever is passed to the function for the dep ID. And the same thing goes for the others. So we're going to get the element by ID. This time we're going to get the department name. And the department name, the value is going to be changed to dep name. And then we'll do the same thing for the location. So you're going to say document that get element by ID, and the ID for that one is dep location. So the idea here is that we are using the DOM to change we are changing the elements through JavaScript using the DOM. All right, so we're going to change the location to dep location. Let's see. All right. So this function needs to be called in order for the task here to be carried out. All right. So we will call this function whenever we have a successful search operation. And based on what we have done here for the search result, the search will be successful when we get inside here. So whenever the search result, the number of rows is more than 0, then we'd have a successful search operation. All right. And I'm just going to put it down here. Even though if we're searching by ID, we would not have more than one since the ID is the primary key. But I'm going to just put it in here since we have the result being displayed inside here. All right. So I'm going to call a function down here. And because we are in PHP, we will call the function by simply saying echo All right, so remember, we're calling the JavaScript function from the context of the PHP. So what we'll do is just echo out a script tag. And within this script tag, we can call the function. So we can call the function. So the function name is set values. So where were we? Right here. All right, so set values takes in some parameters. So we have to pass in the parameters. All right, and very easy. They're right here for us. So the first value that we're going to pass to set values is right here, this one. All right, so we're going to just put each of them, surround each of them by a single quote. So it's the department ID, the same thing that we would have been displaying in the table. Let's create a space there. And the next one that we have is the department's name. It's this. And that is followed by the location. All right, so remember to surround each of them by a single quote. All right, and having done all of that, should work. All right, so let's just double check. Looking good. All right, so again, the idea here is to mark each of the input element by ID. Up here, we get them by ID and set the value to whatever is passed to the function. Down here, where we have a successful search, we execute the function. We call the function that set value by saying echo, echo in a script tag, because down here is PHP. All right, so if it was HTML, we could go straight ahead and call the set value function, but because it's PHP, you have to just echo it out. All right, and that should call it first. So let's see if it works. Or if there's something that we need to fix. So let's refresh. All right, and the echo is complete on line 64. All right, let's see what's going on there. It says expecting comma or semicolon, so we might have missed off something. All right, so line 64. Let's see what we have missed off. All right. Oh yeah, we missed off the double quote and the semicolon. Oh, the semicolon is missing. That's right here. All right, that's it. All right, so it's working like a charm. So, oh, there's only one bad one. This one is bad. So let's put in another ID. There's the ID 11. All right, so notice it's not showing what we're supposed to get for the department location, but everything else is working good. So we'll fix the department location now. All right, so let's check back what is there. Let's first of all make sure that we have entered the information properly here. So it's row, location. And up here, we have depth location. Oh, depth location is nuts. This is LOC. And I have capital. So the spelling here has to be consistent. All right. And so that should fix it for us. All right, so it's all good now. So we put one here, click lookup. There it is. So it's all good. All right, so thank you all for watching. Have a good one.